The Mariners seemingly had today's game against the White Sox in the bag, and then, well, let's just talk about it here on the Locked On Mariners postgame show. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Locked On Mariners postgame show. It is Wednesday, September 7th, 2022, and thank you so much for making us your first listen after the game. We are free and available on all platforms with new episodes dropping every Monday through Friday. I am your host, Setting Gonzalez, joined as always by my co-host, Colby Patnode. We cover the Mariners over at InsideTheMariners.com for Fan Nation over on the Sports Illustrated Network. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter at LO_Mariners. Follow Inside the Mariners at Inside Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, DaneGNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. Be sure to also check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/control the zone. We post 2 additional podcasts on there every single week. Again, that is patreon.com/control the zone. And if this is your first time joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, welcome to the show. If you like what you hear, give us a follow or subscribe wherever you're listening to this. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. The Mariners unfortunately fall to the White Sox by a score of 9-6 this afternoon, and on the show today, we'll dive into the defensive miscues and missed opportunities on offense that led to the loss, how Luis Castillo went from a historic day on the mound to not being able to even finish the 6th, and while it wasn't a successful day for Castillo as a whole, we're going to talk about his future in Seattle and what an extension could look like for the Mariners ace. But first, before we hop into our topics for the day, we have a favor to ask you. I've received a few messages here and there from our listeners saying, hey, I want to come on the show. How can I be a part of the show? Well, we are now extending an opportunity to you, our listener, to be a part of a very special episode of Locked On Mariners. We are asking you today to submit a video to us by, let's say, the end of next week. So next Friday, of you saying your name, how long you've been a Mariners fan, and why, or what the Mariners making the playoffs and ending the 20-year playoff drought means to you. You can submit your video to us at lockedonmariners@gmail.com, and we're hoping to compile all these videos, all these messages from you guys into one very special episode of Locked On Mariners later this month. So again, lockedonmariners@gmail.com. Please make the video around 45 seconds to about a minute. And of course, keep it clean and all that good stuff. And we'll be sure to include it in our special episode of Locked On M's. And if you have friends or family or anyone that is a Mariners fan but doesn't listen to Locked On Mariners, please let them know about it. Please have them submit a video telling their story as a fan as well. And it doesn't matter how long you've been a fan, how little you've been a fan, what kind of fan you are. All fans of the Mariners are welcome to tell us why, or what, rather, I keep on saying why, but what the Mariners making the postseason would mean to you. All right, so let's hop into today's game. Unfortunately, the Mariners fall 9-6 to the White Sox, and this was a very uncharacteristic game for the Mariners for the most part. Obviously, the offense did score 6 runs, but there were plenty of runs left on the table. They were bad with runners in scoring position today, but that wasn't particularly the reason that they lost today. It definitely contributed to the loss, but not exactly the reason for the loss today. A lot of unearned runs scored by the White Sox thanks to a rare bad defensive day from the Mariners. The Mariners, they're very good at doing the little things. They are one of the most efficient defenses in all of baseball, or, if not the most efficient defense in all of baseball. But it was just a bad day. Bad day for Kurt Casale, bad day for Eugenio Suarez. Defensively speaking, of course, good day for Gino at the plate. But this was, it was just not at all the Mariners team that we've really seen. The bullpen wasn't particularly great either. So is this just a bump in the road, Colby, considering the way that they lost, or is this maybe a concerning sign for the future?
It's certainly more of a bump in the road than anything else, because these were uncharacteristic mistakes. And we've seen a few of those on the bases the last few weeks. We've seen some really bad at bats that, a lot of guys expand in the zone who usually don't. So we've seen some of that, but today it all kind of came to a head. Again, there were terrible at bats with runners in scoring position. The Mariners gave up 6 unearned runs in this game, which is it's got to be the most they've given up this year. That's a massive number. And if you're a team like Seattle, who is, you know, prided yourself on pitching and defense, you have to perform you have to win with those tools. And if you don't, you're going to get ugly games like this. And you give credit to Suarez at the plate, at 2 home runs, 3 RBI. He really tried to kind of lift this offense. Julio got on base 3 times, including a double. Scored a run. There were some contributors in this offense today, but not nearly enough. Too many times they came up with the bases loaded or runners on first and second, no out, runners on second and third, 1 out, and they just could not get that guy. They couldn't get that big hit that they needed. They had a chance to put this game completely out of reach early on, and they just could not do it. And that's unfortunately, kind of becoming a trend. And because the Mariners don't do that consistently, they have to play really good defense and pitch very well. And today they really didn't do either of those things. So yeah, you just chalk it up. It's a bad loss. Thank goodness they found a way to win last night, kind of avoid disaster. And that's really all the Mariners have to do going forward here over the next week or so. Just avoid that sweep. Just don't fall into a long losing streak. The Mariners are still, in really good shape. And today is just one of those days that, you hope you forget. And now they get a day off at home tomorrow. And I think they get another one on Monday as well. So good chance to reset. Bullpen should be back in pretty good shape after tomorrow. I wouldn't read too much into today. It's just an ugly baseball game to watch. And we haven't had a lot of those recently. So at least defensively, we haven't had a lot of those recently. So just, reset, take tomorrow off, relax, and get ready for a really good series against a very good baseball team in Atlanta this weekend.
Such a buzzkill today, though. They get out to a 4-0 lead. And after, Gino's first home run, which was so loud, that was Nelly-esque from Eugenio Suarez, just exactly like Nelson Cruz. The sound of that bat, I mean, it was stunning. That was really cool. Even Julio's double right before that as well was loud as hell. Like they were ripping the ball off of Michael Kopech today, and it just seemed like everything was going for him, man. Luis Castillo is just cruising through the first 3 innings. They give him run support. It's like, all right, this is in the bag. They got this, like, series victory, all that. Just cruise. You're high step into the end zone at that point, and it's just, yeah.
The Mariners are going to win that. Yeah, the Mariners are going to win that game 99 times out of 100. And today's just that one day, and you see why. Like, it just all kind of fell apart on them. I think it kind of started, honestly, when Frazier wasn't really able to turn that double play, and that allowed Eloy to come up to the plate and cut the deficit in half. And from then on, it was basically all White Sox. So, not a very clean transfer from Frazier, not a lot on the throw, and Abreu, give him credit. He was hustling down the line and he beat it by a step and the next pitch, boom. And we're off to the races. And obviously, there's the Gino Suarez error that kind of kickstarted the 6th. And if he makes that play, I think the Mariners probably win this game because, like you said, Castillo was cruising at that point. And so kind of unraveled on him there. They couldn't stop the bleeding. And that's been rare for this team. So, again, nothing to be too worried about, but it's a good reminder that if the Mariners don't play good defense, then they're going to lose a lot. So they got to get this cleaned up, and it's not just, not making errors. It's making all those little plays too, like getting the clean transfer and making a good throw to first base to get a slow runner. Those are the little things that you have to hit your cutoff, man. You have to go to third base on a ground ball to second base. You have to do all those little things right because the Mariners they don't have the thump really to just continue to crack home runs day after day.
Yeah, because it's just so out of character for them. I'm not putting too much stock into this loss for the Mariners. It's just, it's a bad day. It's a bad day. It's an afternoon game. It's been a weird schedule since they started this homestand. It's gonna, balance itself out a little bit here over the weekend. Get more back on a regular schedule over the next few days to get an off day tomorrow and another off day on Monday before they play the Padres. So a lot of rest to come for them, and then at that point it's go time. They only get one more rest day or off day for the rest of the regular season, so it's just go. But yeah, wouldn't worry too much about this. Really wouldn't worry too much about this, because it's just these are not the reasons that the Mariners are typically losing games this year. This isn't something that you really you kind of just wash your hands of this and move on, because this isn't really, to me, a sign of anything building, anything snowballing. It's just a rare occurrence, rare hiccup, and you get back on the horse on the weekend. See how it goes against a very good Braves team, that you could run into a brick wall against that team. But the Mariners have so much of a cushion right now that you should feel comfortable with where they are, and even if they do have a little more of a hiccup over the weekend. So, all right, we'll talk about Luis Castillo and his day and how things kind of unraveled for him in just a moment. But real quick, a reminder, this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by Built Bar. If you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you are depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. Guess what? There's a new flavor. You ready? Delicious, indulgent cookie dough covered in chocolate. That's right. Built has done it again. Let me introduce you to your new favorite. Cookie dough chunk puffs have a light and chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks, and of course, they're covered in 100% real chocolate. All of the joys of eating cookie dough without the hassle of making it. Plus, it's healthy for you. Cookie dough chunk puffs are only 160 calories, and they have a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. So run to Built.com to snag a box for you and the family. It will be the perfect treat, or you can find a really good hiding place and just hoard them for yourself. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKEDON15, that's LOCKEDON15 for 15% off your order. Again, that's LOCKEDON15 for 15% off your order at Built.com. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners post-game show. Thank you again for making us your first listen after the game. And Colby, I thought Luis Castillo was going to throw a no-hitter at least today. The way that this game started, he strikes out the first 7 batters he faces, tying an American League record, just 2 off of the Major League Baseball record. And then from that point forward, was pitching to contact more, or at least, they were getting more contact off of him. I don't believe his 8th strikeout of the day came for another couple of innings after his 7th strikeout of the day. And it just, I don't know. It just wasn't the same as we had seen through the first 3 innings in the 4th, 5th, and 6th. And then, of course, the defensive miscues and just everything kind of unraveled from there. He gives up the 2-run home run to Eloy Jimenez after the double play review, all that, as you mentioned earlier. It's just, I don't know. It was weird how he went from looking like the most dominant pitcher on the planet to a guy that could be had a little bit in just a matter of a couple of innings. What did you see from Castillo today?
Yeah, tremendous stuff early, but still catching a lot of the plate. But for the most part, good. I would say good command in the first 2 or 3 innings, and then after that, it was just kind of everything's middle of the plate, or it's a non-competitive pitch. It's not on the corner. It's well off the corner. So it feels like this was more of a command issue. He only walked 1 batter, but it just felt like most everything was middle of the plate after the 3rd inning. Something knocked him off his rhythm. I don't know what it was exactly. Overall, the final line is actually okay. It's 5 2/3 and 5 hits and 1 walk with 8 strikeouts. Like, that's pretty good against a decent White Sox lineup. But it's one of those things that it felt like after watching the 4th and the 5th a little bit, it felt like, it was going to take one mistake for this game to kind of turn on its head. And unfortunately, Gino, the first ball of the 6th, he butchers it more or less. And it all just kind of snowballed from there. But yeah, Castillo, cruise control early. Lost some feel, particularly on the command and control side of things. And the White Sox were aggressive. They attacked early in the counts, didn't let them get deep into counts, and they were able to put the ball in play. A bunt single in there, a CNI single to score another run, and then a double, back-to-back doubles, and that was pretty much it for him. He actually, he didn't give up a ton of hard contact in this game, more than you would like to see, but just 7 hard hit balls in 5 2/3. It's not terrible. It's just one of those games, it started great, and then you can kind of see that he's not quite as effective in the 4th and the 5th, and he's just something wasn't quite right, catching a lot of the plate, and then all of a sudden in the 6th, Gino makes his mistake, and the White Sox capitalize, and Castillo just couldn't quite find a way to get out of it like he has in the past. Overall, he's fine. He's fine. He'll be fine. It's just one of those. Again, it's one of those starts where a couple little things don't go his way, and he couldn't find a way to work around the things that didn't go his way, and it led to the result we saw. So it's unfortunate, but it's baseball.
Elvis Andrus once again tormenting the Mariners with that bunt single in the top of the 6th that kept the ball rolling there, and gave the White Sox a lot of momentum there, getting the first 2 runners on base. He finishes the year now 11 for 40 against the Mariners with 5 home runs, a double, 7 runs batted in, 8 strikeouts, 4 walks. But thankfully, the Mariners are done with Elvis Andrus for the rest of the year. Unless the White Sox win the division and then they run into the Mariners, and then, that would be unideal. I got some other numbers here. So a lot of talk about Kurt Casale, because today was not very good for old Kurt Casale. He's played 7 games now in a Mariners uniform since being activated. He is 2 for 21 with 8 strikeouts, 2 walks, 2 runs batted in, and a double. And he was not very good at the plate today, and not very good behind it either. He's now caught Luis Castillo, his former teammate in Cincinnati, 3 times. And then Castillo has been caught by other catchers 4 times since coming over to Seattle. And the 3 starts with Casale, 16 2/3 innings pitched, 17 hits allowed, 8 earned runs allowed, 23 strikeouts, 3 walks. And then without Casale in 4 starts, 26 2/3 innings pitched, 19 hits, 5 earned runs, 28 strikeouts, 7 walks. So
against better quality opponents too.
Against better quality, because the 3 starts with Casale against the A's, against the Guardians, and then today against the White Sox, and then without Casale, Yankees, Guardians, Angels. So
so who wants to apologize to Luis Torrens first? So
that's the thing, is is it time to maybe consider bringing Luis back?
I don't know, because I don't know, are the Mariners going to use him? Because part of the thing with Casale and also Jake Lamb is that the Mariners just don't use those guys. So it's really hard to, get in a rhythm when you're not getting consistent at bats. So could Casale be better, be caught twice a week instead of once a week, or 3 times a week? Maybe, but you don't want to take, Cal Raleigh out of the lineup. So you're kind of, stuck. So unless you're willing to send somebody down and bring up a 3rd catcher, I don't see the Mariners doing that, and I don't see, them DHing either Casale or Raleigh on a regular basis. So I think you just kind of roll with it. Hope he figures it out along the way. He's a veteran. He's been there. He's done that. But yeah, he's been bad, in very limited opportunities, and it's frustrating when oh well, no, look, we made these marginal upgrades, and we got this this platoon guy in Jake Lamb, and we got this really good backup who's going to help us and be a huge upgrade over Luis Torrens, and they haven't used Lamb, and Casale hasn't been an upgrade over Luis Torrens. So it's frustrating to watch right now because Casale is not been as advertised. And, we also need to recognize that he did miss a good chunk of the season with an injury. So there's still timing issues and all on that end as well. So it's kind of like a lot of things are kind of, conspiring against Kirk Casale right now, but he has not been good for the Mariners, and he has not been the upgrade over Luis Torrens that we were all promised.
Yeah. So we'll see if that's a good point about him coming off of the injury, and he's not playing much. So like you said, it's hard to get in a rhythm. So this doesn't entirely fall on Casale, but at the end of the day, you need some production out of that spot, specifically on the defensive end. Offensively speaking, whatever. He's a backup catcher. Backup catchers really don't hit. Obviously, he's kind of been an exception in the past. But for the most part, when you have a backup catcher in the lineup, you're not really expecting them to do any sort of damage. You just need them to be able to keep things afloat defensively. And Kirk Casale didn't do that, particularly in the ninth inning of this game. So I don't know. I think if that continues to be an issue down the road, you kind of have to think about it with Torrens, but also, Torrens isn't great defensively either. So it's, yeah. You're just kind of in a weird spot there right now.
Boy, does this team miss Murphy.
It really does. Yeah, imagine if Tom Murphy wasn't hurt. If you had Cal Raleigh and Tom Murphy catching for you, wow, that would be nice. All right, so let's circle back to Luis Castillo. Obviously, not a great day today, but I think we're all in agreement here that Luis Castillo should be a Seattle Mariner beyond 2023. And Jeff Passan of ESPN felt pretty confident that is going to be the case when he was on 710 Seattle Sports about a week ago. We weren't able to get to this. I don't know if it was because of not doing a show or something, but we weren't able to get to Passan's comments. He also talked about Mitch Haniger and his willingness to accept a qualifying offer or sign an extension in Seattle. We might talk about that if we have time later today or maybe on another show, but let's talk about Castillo here. Passan basically said what we had said when the last time we talked about an extension for Castillo on the show, that it's probably going to be somewhere around the Robbie Ray ballpark, what Robbie Ray signed for in Seattle. Maybe not the exact same structure with the option or what have you, but we know that the Mariners are probably going to get creative with it. Jerry Dipoto is going to get creative with it. There probably will be some sort of option in there. But the deal at face value for Robbie Ray was, of course, 5 years, $115 million. Passan also mentioned the Joe Musgrove extension with the Padres, which was 5 years, $100 million. That doesn't sound like a lot of money for Luis Castillo, someone who is going to slot in at the top of your rotation. To me, Luis Castillo is a $26, $27 million guy, but this is more like $22, $23, $24 million a year. So, I mean, if that's actually what it's going to take to sign Luis Castillo, I'm signing that yesterday. But what do you think at the end of the day a Castillo extension is going to look like?
Yeah, there's been no shortage of comps for Castillo over the last few years. There's plenty of guys who are in Castillo's range that have signed deals. You look at Zach Wheeler, you look at Barrios, Gossman, Ray, and all these guys have gotten roughly the same deal. It's somewhere 5 years, 5 to 7 years, at between $20 to $24 million AAV. That's just the going rate for guys like Luis Castillo, and there's upside in Castillo still. That hasn't yet been reached. So when Passan says Robbie Ray, that's 23 million AAV, which is right in range. Now I think you do have to adjust for inflation, and obviously every year the contracts get a little bit bigger. So if you want to adjust for inflation at the rate of inflation, let's say 10%, then I think you're looking at 5 years, $125 million. That's about 10% more than Robbie Ray got. So it's really not that big of a contract extension for what you get. Getting a number 2, number 3 starter for $23 million a year, it's actually still a tremendous bargain. It's one of the bigger bargains you can get in baseball right now. The difference between like a number 2 and an ace on the open market is quite literally $15 million a year. So, I do think you're probably looking at something. Obviously Castillo has to want to sign here, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. He has to, want to commit long term. Again, I don't think that's going to be an issue for him. So I think ultimately, when you look at it, I think the Mariners get a little creative here, like they did with Robbie Ray. I think if everything maxes out, I think they would be willing to go 5 and 125, 130, but there's probably an opt out after year 3 or some kind of vesting option that turns into a player option at some point down the line. But the Mariners can get really creative here. They have the money. They can sign Castillo to this extension tomorrow and still have a lower payroll heading into the offseason they have right now. So it's just one of those things. It shouldn't be too hard to get done if there's interest on both sides. John Stanton was on the new Restart Brock and Salk podcast last night. They asked him about Luis Castillo long term, and it was the the wet fart sound effect of an answer. It was just nothing of substance there. But it wasn't as encouraging as you might like. Not even like well, boy, we sure hope so. No, just like, oh well, we'll see how it works, and it's just not what you want to hear from the owner, especially when there's like cheapness accusations flying around. But I think something gets done. I would be pretty surprised if it doesn't get done this winter. I think ultimately it's going to be 120, somewhere in that range. And again, because it's not really my money and I really like the player, I'm fine if they want to go 130, 140, 150, somewhere in that range. I really don't care that much.
Yeah.
I think there's a chance it maxes out at that, but there would be a lot of incentives involved and stuff like that. And I do think Castillo is going to get an option or an opt-out opportunity somewhere in that contract. It's just kind of the way the Mariners have been doing business lately, particularly with the pitchers. You look at Yusei Kikuchi, you look at Chris Flexen, you look at Robbie Ray, opt-outs. All have opt-outs. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm pretty confident Castillo is going to be here beyond 2023.
Yeah, same. I think it's a pretty high likelihood at this point. And, the Mariners have been working closely with Castillo. It seems like he's very receptive to, how they handle business on the pitching side of things. And it seems like he's fit in perfectly with that clubhouse. So, and we know how much the Mariners value fit off the field. And it seems like there's been no issues with that. And so they're that plays a big role in who they keep around. Who they want to be able to, be who they want to have be the face of the franchise, faces of the franchise rather.
Yeah, that's something Stan mentioned yesterday. Like his big concern, so he says, when looking at whether or not he wants to commit to a player, he says his number one concern is character and people who represent the team well. And he kept Kevin Mather for a while, so whatever.
He took a while to fire Kevin Mather. So.
And technically, you didn't fire him. And when asked, would you have fired him if he didn't quit? You said, I didn't have to make that decision. Like,
yeah.
So call me skeptical there, Mr. Owner Man. But so we'll see. But Castillo does seem to check that box as well. So one thing that I think will help here is that if the Mariners get a home playoff game, the excitement level of the fan base and blah 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 on the playoffs, that's no longer hypothetical, that's no longer theoretical, it's there and you've experienced it. I think you're going to have an easier time getting Castillo to sign on and that too, because it does matter. Players want to play in front of fans, they want to play in front of people who care, and they want to get paid, and the Mariners right now can offer all three of those things to Luis Castillo, and nobody even has a shot to pitch that to him for another year and another 14 months basically. So figure it out, get it done. And I think something will get done.
All right, so that is going to do it for our show. On tomorrow's show, I think we're going to talk a little bit about some end-of-season awards, the Rookie of the Year debate between Julio and Adley Rutschman and all that good stuff. And yes, I know we forgot to mention Adley Rutschman on yesterday's show.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then Manager of the Year as well. Want to talk about why Scott Service deserves to win that.
Oh, is Adley that guy who's not as good as Cal Raleigh? Is it that guy? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. Yeah. No. The fake Cal Raleigh, right? The one in Baltimore. The poor man's Cal Raleigh. Gotcha. My bad.
Are you sure that's? Are you sure?
Come at me in the comments, bro. I don't care.
Are you sure that's a bit that you want to commit to? Adley Rutschman's
I'm all
good.
in, man. I'm all in.
Adley's pretty good though,
but he's not as good as Cal Raleigh though. So Cal Raleigh, number one catcher in baseball. That's right. I said it. Leave your hateful comments down in the comment section because it's good for the YouTube algorithm. We tricked you. The more you complain, the more successful we become.
See, the only reason we say dumb stuff is so we get you guys to leave comments and improve the YouTube algorithm, and that's totally the only reason that we say dumb stuff.
I don't know what you're talking about. I've never said dumb things on the show, so.
All right.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. All right. So once again, as a reminder, if you are interested in participating in our, if you're interested in participating in our special episode that we're going to be doing later this month, send a video of yourself saying who you are, what's your name, how long you've been a Mariners fan, and what the Mariners making the playoffs would mean to you. Send it to lockedonmariners@gmail.com. Again, please keep it to around 45 seconds to about a minute, and keep it clean and all that good stuff. And get it to us by the end of next week. We'll leave you guys some more reminders throughout the next few episodes as well, so don't worry about that. Anywho, for Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at @LO_Mariners. You can follow Inside the Mariners at Inside Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, the CANEGNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. And thank you again for making us your first listen of the day. Now, for your second listen, go check out the Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022. It's an 8-episode extravaganza to get you ready for the NFL season. The local team experts of the Locked On Podcast Network, plus a betting angle from Lee Sterling of Locked On Bets, all combining into one ultimate NFL preview. Search for Ultimate Pro Football Preview 2022 on your Odyssey app, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And with that, have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.